Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening.
James Holden checked his appearance in the reflective surface of the spacecraft's interior, straightening his formal uniform, the standard garb for a diplomatic envoy of Earth. He was about to step onto the surface of Xantha for the first time, a moment that would mark the beginning of humanity's official contact with the Xanthians. The airlock hissed open, and a burst of alien light washed over him. James blinked against the brightness, his boots thudding onto the soft, violet soil. Before him stretched a vibrant landscape, bioluminescent plants casting an ethereal glow on the faces of the welcoming party. "Welcome, Envoy Holden," greeted a tall, slender figure with iridescent skin and large, luminescent eyes. This was Governor Terran, the Xanthian official designated as his primary contact. Her voice was melodic, almost hypnotic. "Thank you, Governor Terran," James replied, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting. He remembered just in time to retract it, recalling that physical touch was not a common greeting here. Instead, he mimicked her slight bow, which seemed well received. As they walked towards the reception area, James's eyes kept straying to one figure in particular, a Xanthian woman with captivating patterns swirling through her skin, reflecting the planet's twin suns. She noticed his gaze and approached gracefully. "I am Alara," she said, her voice tinged with a musical accent. "I am to assist you with your integration into our society." "It's a pleasure to meet you, Alara. I hope to learn much from you," James said, his diplomatic tone softened by genuine curiosity. "The pleasure is ours, Envoy. We have prepared a gathering where you can meet more of our leaders and intellectuals. Shall we?" Alara gestured towards a sleek, hovering vehicle that awaited them. As they rode towards the city, the vehicle floated silently above the bioluminescent flora. Alara pointed out landmarks and explained their significance, her descriptions painting a picture of a deeply spiritual and community-focused people. "Your cities blend so well with the environment," James remarked, impressed by the seamless integration of nature and architecture. "It is the Xanthian way. We build with nature, not against it," Alara explained. "Here we are." The reception was held in a stunning open-air pavilion, its walls alive with the soft glow of native plants. James was introduced to various officials and scholars, each conversation providing insights into Xanthian culture and philosophy. As the evening progressed, James found himself increasingly drawn to Alara, her intelligence as alluring as her exotic appearance. They discussed art, philosophy, and the challenges of interspecies diplomacy. James appreciated her insightful questions about human culture and societal structures. "You humans are quite fascinating. Your passion for exploration is unparalleled," Alara said, her eyes reflecting a sincere interest. "We have always been driven to reach beyond our grasp, to see what lies beyond the next horizon," James responded, feeling a connection forming between them over the shared thirst for knowledge. As the reception drew to a close, Alara led James to a balcony overlooking the illuminated cityscape. "Xantha feels less alien with each passing hour," James confessed, looking out over the city. "Especially with such an excellent guide." "I am glad to hear that, James. We hope that your stay here will be enlightening for both of us." Alara's smile was mysterious, enchanting. Indeed, James agreed, realizing that his mission on Xantha might change his life in ways he had not anticipated. As they stood side by side, the alien stars above seemed to promise new beginnings. James was far from Earth, but for the first time since landing, he felt a stirring sense of belonging. Or was it the stirring of something deeper, sparked by the alluring alien by his side? James awoke to his second sunrise on Xantha, the light soft and welcoming through the translucent walls of his quarters. He dressed quickly, eager to continue his explorations and deepen his understanding of the local customs. At the communal dining hall, he met with Dr. Lucas Hart, a fellow Earth envoy specializing in nonverbal alien communication. Lucas's keen interest in the subtleties of body language had made him a valuable asset in negotiations. "Morning, James. Ready for a crash course in Xanthian gestures?" Lucas greeted him with a warm smile, handing him a steaming cup of a local herbal infusion. "Absolutely," James replied, taking a tentative sip of the bitter liquid. I had a few awkward moments yesterday. I'd like to avoid any repeats. Lucas chuckled. We've all been there. Let's start with the basics. For instance, nodding here doesn't mean agreement like it does for us. As they talked, Alluring joined them, her presence immediately brightening the room. Good morning, James, Lucas. I thought I might find you here. I'm glad to see you're already deep in study. Alluring, perhaps you can help demonstrate? Lucas suggested. Alluring nodded, a graceful, flowing movement that somehow conveyed her assent more eloquently than any words. The first gesture we should practice is the greeting, Alluring said, her arms sweeping out with a fluid motion that ended with her palms facing upwards. It's a sign of peace and openness. James tried to mimic her, his movements stiffer, less flowing. Alluring smiled gently, adjusting his arms. Almost James. More like this. Allow your shoulders to relax. They spent the morning practicing, with Lucas taking notes and occasionally interjecting with questions about nuances that could be crucial during diplomatic talks. Understanding these gestures helps prevent misunderstandings, Lucas noted, his eyes following every subtle tilt and turn of Alluring's wrists. For instance, Alluring, could you explain the difference between this? He demonstrated a slight bow. And this? His second attempt included a hand over his heart. The first is a casual greeting, used among friends. The second is a gesture of deep respect, typically reserved for elders or esteemed guests, Alluring clarified, watching as James took a turn at each. The morning passed quickly, and after a light meal, the trio headed to a local learning center where human and Xanthian scholars gathered to exchange knowledge. Here, James was introduced to Dr. Aidan Reese, an anthropologist who had spent several months living among another Xanthian community. Aidan, this is James Holden, our new envoy, Lucas introduced. Pleased to meet you, James. I hear you're diving right into the thick of our cultural exchange, Aidan said, extending his hand then laughing as he switched to a more appropriate Xanthian greeting. Yes, I'm learning the ropes. Alluring here has been an excellent teacher, James replied, returning the gesture. I'd like to show you some of the work we're doing with local flora. There's a particular species that exhibits properties we think could help with soil rejuvenation on Earth, Aidan shared as they walked towards a large, domed structure filled with a variety of alien plant life. As they toured the facility, James felt his understanding of Xantha and its inhabitants deepen. The more he learned, the more he appreciated their complex, intricate ways of living and communicating. I must say, your people's respect for nature is something we could learn from, James remarked to Alluring, who beamed with pride. It is the foundation of our existence, she replied. And we are eager to see how our knowledge can help Earth. Their day ended with the setting of Xantha's twin suns, casting long shadows over the landscape. James felt a profound sense of accomplishment, not just in his diplomatic mission, but in the personal connections he was forging. Thank you, Alluring, Lucas, Aidan, James said as they parted ways for the evening. Today has been incredibly enlightening. Tomorrow, we delve into Xanthian history, Alluring promised with a mysterious smile. Be prepared to be amazed. As James headed back to his quarters, his thoughts lingered on the complexities of the new world around him and the intriguing possibilities that lay ahead. James had barely touched down on Xantha's soil, and already he was set to attend one of the most significant events in Xanthian society, the Bioluminescence Festival, an annual celebration of light and life. He met Lucas in the early evening, just as the twin suns began their descent. Ready for a night to remember? Lucas asked, adjusting his sensor pack, a device designed to record environmental and cultural data without being obtrusive. I wouldn't miss it for the world, James replied, his anticipation palpable. They rendezvoused with Alluring at the edge of the city where the festival was already in full swing. The air vibrated with energy, the sounds of traditional Xanthian music blending with the laughter and chatter of the crowd. James, Lucas, this festival is the perfect opportunity to truly immerse yourself in our culture, Alluring explained as they walked through the throngs of people. Here, you will see our heritage and values in living color. Alluring guided them to a pavilion where artisans displayed glowing fabrics and intricate jewelry. She picked up a luminescent scarf, draping it around James's neck. This is worn to symbolize one's openness to the light of understanding, she told him. Thank you, Alera. It's beautiful, James said, the scarf shimmering with a light that seemed to pulse in time with his heartbeat. As they continued through the festival, Lucas pointed to a group of Xanthians engaged in a dance that involved complex hand gestures and flowing movements. What's the significance of this dance? He asked. It's a dance of connectivity, showing the link between individuals and the collective spirit of our community, Alera answered. She turned to James with a teasing smile. Would you like to try? With a hesitant nod, James allowed himself to be pulled into the circle. The Xanthians welcomed him warmly, guiding his movements with gentle nods and smiles. Lucas watched, amused, as James slowly got the hang of the dance, his earlier awkwardness giving way to a more fluid motion. This is incredible, James laughed, breathless from the exertion and exhilaration. I've never felt anything like it. It's about feeling the connection, not just performing the steps, Alera explained as they stepped out of the circle, her eyes shining with pride. Lucas, who had been recording the whole event, chimed in. It's fascinating to see how dance can be used so profoundly within a culture. It's not just art, it's communication. Yes, and it's just one aspect of our expression, Alera said. They moved on to a food stall where exotic fragrances wafted through the air. Alera handed each of them a small, glowing fruit. Try this. It's a favorite during the festival. The fruit was sweet, with an effervescent quality that made James's mouth tingle. That's amazing. It's like nothing I've ever tasted. Xantha has many surprises, Alera replied, her smile suggesting many more were yet to come. As the evening drew to a close, they watched a grand display of lights, where drones adorned with lights synchronized in patterns that told an ancient Xanthian tale of star-crossed lovers. It's a story of love transcending the boundaries of life and the physical universe, Alera narrated. It teaches us that connections made in love are eternal and luminous. James found himself glancing at Alera more often than the spectacle above. Her profile was lit by the soft glow of the floating lights, her features soft and thoughtful. Thank you for sharing this with us, James said sincerely as they prepared to leave. Tonight wasn't just fun. It was meaningful. Alera looked up at him, her expression earnest. I'm glad, James. Understanding our culture is not just about observing. It's about participating and feeling. As they said their goodbyes, James felt a profound sense of connection, not just to the culture and the planet, but to Alera. He realized that this mission might change him in ways he had never anticipated. His diplomatic goals now intertwined with something much more personal. The morning after the festival, James met with Lucas and Dr. Aiden Reese at the outskirts of the city, near the edge of the verdant plains, a vast stretch of Xantha's natural landscape known for its ecological diversity. Good morning, gentlemen, James greeted them, feeling refreshed despite the late night. What's on the agenda today? We thought we'd show you some of Xantha's unique flora and fauna, Aiden explained as they started walking towards the plains. The biodiversity here is unlike anything on Earth. As they walked, Lucas pulled out a small device, pointing it at various plants and insects. This scanner will help us catalog species and gather data on their ecological roles. Who knows, we might discover something beneficial for Earth. The plains were a riot of colors, with towering plants that swayed gently in the breeze and small creatures that flitted between them. James was captivated by the beauty and the harmony of the ecosystem. Look at this one, Aiden said, stopping before a plant with luminous blue leaves. The locals call it the night whisperer. It's said to have medicinal properties that help with relaxation and sleep. Remarkable, James commented, examining the plant. Alera mentioned something about Xantha's people using natural remedies extensively. Yes, their pharmacology is deeply intertwined with their environment, Aiden noted, making a note in his digital log. As they ventured deeper into the plains, the conversation turned to the technological implications of such biodiversity. Lucas discussed how integrating Xantha's organic models could revolutionize Earth's approach to sustainable technology. It's not just about taking what we can use, James mused aloud. It's about understanding and preserving. Learning from Xantha could help us improve our stewardship of Earth. Exactly, Lucas agreed. Their respect for the environment is something we need to emulate, not exploit. Their exploration took them to a wide, clear river that flowed gently through the landscape. The water was crystal clear, reflecting the brilliant sky above. Water is sacred to the Xanthians, Aiden pointed out. They manage this resource with incredible care, using natural biofilters to keep it pure. As they sat by the riverbank to rest, James found himself thinking about Allara. Allara has been a great help in understanding your culture, he said to Aiden, who had spent much time with her during his studies. She's one of the best cultural liaisons we've had, Aiden replied. Her ability to articulate Xanthian concepts in ways that we can understand is unparalleled. I've noticed that, James said, a smile creeping onto his face as he recalled their recent interactions. The sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the plains as they made their way back to the city. The conversation shifted from the professional to the personal, with each sharing stories of their experiences on different worlds. It's moments like these that remind me why we explore, James reflected aloud. Not just to see new worlds, but to experience them, to really connect with them. Agreed, Lucas said. It's about the connections we make, with the world and with each other. They arrived back at the city as the stars began to twinkle in the twilight sky. The day had been long and full of discovery, but James felt a deep satisfaction that went beyond scientific curiosity. As they parted ways, James thanked Aiden and Lucas for the insightful day. Today was enlightening in more ways than one. Thanks for sharing it with me. Anytime, James, Aiden replied with a friendly clap on the back. Enjoy the rest of your evening. James walked back to his quarters, the thoughts of the day mingling with thoughts of Allara. He looked forward to seeing her again, to continue exploring, not just Xantha but whatever was growing between them. After several days of deep cultural immersion, James felt increasingly comfortable navigating the nuances of Xanthian society, or so he thought. Today, he was invited to a small, intimate gathering hosted by Allara's family, a privilege that spoke volumes of his growing acceptance among her people. Lucas opted to join as well, keen on observing familial interactions firsthand. James, remember, family gatherings are sacred here. It's about sharing and belonging, Allara reminded him as they approached her family home, a structure beautifully integrated into a surrounding garden that seemed to pulse with life. I understand. I'm honored to be invited, James replied, his voice laden with genuine respect. Inside, they were greeted by Allara's relatives with warmth and curiosity. Her mother, a stately woman with the same luminous eyes as her daughter, extended a hand not for a shake, but for him to hold briefly, a sign of welcome and trust. The evening began pleasantly, with conversations flowing freely. Allara's family was interested in Earth, its cultures, and especially its environmental recovery programs which James was part of. He shared stories and insights, feeling a sense of pride in his work and his planet. Dinner was served, and it was unlike any meal James had experienced. The dishes were an array of colors and flavors, each ingredient meticulously chosen for its nutritional and medicinal benefits. Try this, James. It's a traditional dish, made with the roots of the island plant. It's very special to us, Allara's father said, passing him a vibrant, green-tinted stew. James was eager to show his appreciation for their hospitality and his willingness to embrace their culture. He recalled seeing a similar dish earlier in his visit, where guests had sprinkled a spice over it before eating. Wanting to replicate the gesture, he reached for a container on the table that looked familiar. Ah, James, wait, Allara started, but it was too late. James had already seasoned his dish with the spice. The table went quiet. James looked up, noticing the change in atmosphere. Allara's mother looked at him with a surprised expression, not angry, but certainly taken aback. I'm sorry, have I made a mistake? James asked, feeling the weight of the room's attention. Allara quickly smoothed over the moment with a gentle laugh. It's quite all right, James. That spice is actually used for cleansing the palate between meals during our fasting days. It's not meant for this dish, but don't worry, it's an easy mistake. Lucas leaned over, whispering, different spice, same look, easy mix-up for a newcomer. The dinner continued, though James could feel a subtle shift. He was more cautious, sticking closely to Allara's cues. After the meal, as they sat in the family's living area, Allara's father brought out an instrument similar to a harp. This is a plar. It's used in our meditation ceremonies, he explained, playing a few soothing notes that seemed to resonate through the room, restoring some of the earlier warmth. Would you like to try? He offered, looking at James with a kind, forgiving smile. James hesitated, then accepted. Under Alara's father's guidance, he attempted a few notes. The sound was halting, but the attempt brought smiles and a few gentle laughs. Thank you for allowing me to try, James said, handing back the instrument with care. It's how we learn, her father replied sagely. By trying, even if we falter. As the evening wound down, Lucas and James thanked their hosts. Once outside, Lucas clapped James on the shoulder. Don't dwell on it. Tonight was a lesson, like any other. Yeah, James sighed. Every day here teaches me something new. Today, it was humility. Walking back in the soft light of Xantha's moons, James reflected on the evening. Despite the mishap, the experience had deepened his understanding of Xanthian customs and, more importantly, the graciousness of its people. Alara walked beside him, her presence reassuring. James, everyone makes mistakes. It's how you handle them that matters. And tonight you did well. Thanks, Alara. I guess every mistake is a step towards understanding, James replied, hopeful that his journey on Xantha would forge not just diplomatic bridges but also personal ones. The morning after the dinner, James woke up feeling unsettled about the previous evening's blunder. Determined to set things right, he sought out Lucas for advice on an appropriate Xanthian gesture of apology. Lucas met him in the communal area of their lodging, sipping on a local morning brew. Good to see you up early, James. You seem determined, he remarked. I need to make amends for last night, Lucas. I was thinking about a gesture that would show my respect and my regret for the mistake, James explained. That's a thoughtful approach, James. Xanthians value sincerity, especially in apologies. Maybe you could incorporate something personal, something that shows you understand their culture, Lucas suggested. James nodded. I was thinking about that. Maybe I could use their love for music. I noticed how the Plar brought us all together last night. That's a brilliant idea, Lucas agreed. Music transcends words. But you'll need a guide. Maybe someone who understands both our ways and theirs deeply. Alara would be perfect, but I don't want to impose on her after what happened, James admitted. I think she'd appreciate your effort. Let's find her, and you can explain your idea. I'm sure she'll help you, Lucas encouraged him. Together, they found Alara in the educational sector where she was involved in a cultural exchange workshop. She greeted them with her usual warmth, her demeanor showing no sign of lingering awkwardness from the dinner. Alara, I wanted to talk about last night. I'm truly sorry for my mistake, and I'd like to apologize in a way that honors your customs, James started, his tone earnest. Alara listened, her expression turning contemplative. James, your desire to make amends in our way is appreciated. Music is a powerful medium here. Perhaps you could learn a piece on the Plar and perform it as your apology. I'd like that, James said, relief evident in his voice. Could you help me? Of course. Let's start this afternoon, Alara replied, a supportive smile on her face. The next few days were filled with practice sessions. Alara patiently taught James the basics of the Plar, starting with simple notes and gradually moving to a traditional melody known for its healing properties. You're getting better, James. There's feeling in your music now, Alara noted during one of their sessions, genuinely impressed with his progress. Thanks to an excellent teacher, James responded, sharing a smile with her. When the day of the apology came, James felt a mix of nervousness and determination. Alara escorted him to her family's home once more, where her family and a few close friends gathered, curious about the unusual event. James stood before them, the Plar in his hands. I am here to offer an apology for my misunderstanding of your customs, he began, his voice steady. Music is a language we all share, and I hope this piece speaks of my respect and my regret. With that, he began to play. The melody was soft and soothing, filling the room with its gentle cadence. As he played the last note, he looked up, hoping for forgiveness. Alara's mother was the first to react, her eyes moist as she approached and placed her hand over her heart, a sign of deep acceptance. Your music has touched us, James. Your apology is received with the same sincerity with which it was offered, The room erupted in quiet applause, not just for the performance, but for the respect he had shown. Alluring stepped forward, her eyes shining with pride. "Thank you, James. Today, you've shown great understanding." James felt a weight lift from his shoulders, his efforts rewarded not just by their forgiveness, but by the strengthening of the bonds he had come to cherish. As the guests mingled after the performance, Lucas leaned over to him. "Well done, James. That took courage." "It took a lot of help, too," James replied, glancing at Alluring with gratitude. The incident closed on a harmonious note, leaving James more integrated into the Xanthian community than ever. He had learned that understanding and respect were not just parts of diplomacy, but the foundations of any relationship anywhere in the universe. After successfully navigating his misstep with Alluring's family, James found himself reflecting on his journey on Xantha, especially his relationship with Alluring. Tonight, they had planned to observe one of Xantha's most beautiful natural phenomena, the glowing tides, an event where the sea lit up with bioluminescent waves. It was the perfect backdrop for what James felt he needed to share. Alluring met James at the edge of the city, where the terrain shifted to soft sands that whispered underfoot. "The glowing tides happen only once a year. It's as if the sea decides to mirror the stars," she explained as they walked. "I wanted to talk to you about something important tonight," James began, his tone serious against the backdrop of the fading light. Alluring glanced at him, sensing the shift. "What's on your mind, James?" "I've been doing a lot of thinking about us," James confessed as they reached the beach, the first signs of the luminescent tide appearing like flickers of light in the water. "I made so many mistakes when I first came here, but falling for you was not one of them. It might be my biggest mistake, though, given what it could mean for both of us." Alluring stopped walking, her gaze fixed on the waves. "Why would it be a mistake?" Her voice was soft, uncertain. "Because I'm here temporarily. And because I don't want to cause you any trouble with your people, or with mine. But despite knowing that, I can't help my feelings," James explained, his heart heavy. Alluring turned to face him, her expression composed yet vulnerable. "James, knowing you, learning from you, has changed me too. I share your feelings." They stood in silence for a moment, the only sound that of the gentle surf, before James reached out tentatively to hold her hand, an action he hoped transcended cultural differences. Alluring's fingers curled around his with a reassuring pressure. "Maybe it's a mistake," Alluring finally said, "but it's ours to make." Encouraged, James drew closer. "So, what do we do?" "We enjoy tonight," Alluring suggested, pulling him gently along the beach as the tide grew brighter, casting an otherworldly glow around them. "We have now, James. And tonight, the sea is alive with light, just for us." They found a secluded spot near a rocky outcrop, the perfect place to watch the tides. As they sat, James couldn't resist the pull he felt towards her. He leaned in, and they shared a kiss, tentative at first but growing in confidence as if drawing strength from the glowing waves. As the night deepened, they talked openly about their dreams, their fears, and the complexities of their situation. It was a new level of intimacy, not just of bodies but of souls, and James felt a profound connection that he knew would define him forever. "I never imagined I could feel this way about someone from another world," James murmured as they lay back, watching the sky. "It's scary, isn't it? How something so unexpected can feel so right." Alluring responded, her head resting against his shoulder. "It is, but I wouldn't change it." "Not for anything," James said, realizing the truth of his words even as he spoke them. As the tide began to ebb, they stood, reluctant to leave, but knowing the night had to end. They walked back hand in hand, each step imprinted in the sand, a temporary mark on the world but a lasting one in their memories. Before they parted, James looked at Alluring, every moment with her etched deep in his heart. "My biggest mistake. Falling for that alluring alien girl," he said with a wistful smile, echoing the words that had haunted him since his arrival. Alluring smiled back, squeezing his hand. "And mine, falling for that charming human man. Let's see where this mistake takes us." With the future uncertain but their feelings clear, they shared one last kiss under the Xanthian stars, the night forever a testament to their shared mistake. one they were both willing to embrace. As James' assignment on Xantha neared its end, the weight of the impending departure loomed over him. He and Alara had grown closer each day, their secret romance blossoming against the odds. Today, they faced the reality of saying goodbye, a task neither was prepared for. James met Lucas for a final walk through the alien markets they had frequented during his stay. "It's hard to believe it's time to leave," James remarked, watching the hustle of the vibrant marketplace. "I know it's tough," Lucas replied, clapping him on the back. "You've made quite an impact here, James. And not just diplomatically." "Yeah, I'll miss it." "Miss her," James confessed, his voice tinged with regret. "Have you told her about leaving yet?" Lucas inquired, his concern evident. "Not yet. I don't know how to start, or even what to say," James admitted, feeling the heaviness of the task at hand. "You'll find the words." "You always do," Lucas encouraged, a supportive smile on his face as they stopped to look at some local crafts. With the afternoon slipping away, James knew it was time. He bid Lucas farewell and headed to the place where he and Alara first met, hoping it would lend him the strength to face her. Alara was already there, waiting. She smiled as he approached, but her eyes mirrored the sadness he felt. "I was wondering when we would have this conversation," she said gently. "I wish we didn't have to." "I wish." James trailed off, the words catching in his throat. "I know. I wish for many things, James. But I understand your world is not here," Alara said, stepping closer. James took her hands in his. "These past months with you, they've changed me. I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. And you've shown me what it means to truly connect with someone," Alara replied, her voice steady despite the emotion behind her words. "What happens now?" "I go back to Earth. And you stay here," James stated the painful obvious. "But I don't want this to be the end for us, Alara." "Nor do I," she affirmed. "But the distance, the differences, we can make it work." Somehow, James insisted, desperate to find a solution. Alara looked out towards the horizon, considering their impossible situation. "Let's promise each other something," she suggested after a moment, turning back to face him. "Let's promise to find a way. If not now, someday." "A promise," James agreed, feeling a mix of hope and heartache. To find a way back to each other. They spent the last few hours together walking through the places they had shared during James' stay, recounting memories and making plans for the future. When it was time to leave, they stood facing each other, neither wanting to be the first to turn away. "This isn't goodbye." "Not really," James said, pulling her into an embrace. "It's until we meet again," Alara replied, her voice muffled against his chest. With one final kiss, James walked away, his heart heavy but holding on to the promise they had made. The journey back to Earth was a blur, every mile taking him further from Alara but closer to the challenge of finding a way to bridge the distance between their worlds. As the spacecraft ascended, James looked down at the shrinking vista of Xantha, its contours etched in his mind like the lines of Alara's face. The promise they made echoed in his heart, a mantra for the uncertain days ahead. He knew the road would be difficult, possibly fraught with more mistakes, but he was ready to face them. For her, for them, for the future they hoped to build. Whatever it took, he was determined to find a way back.